You might be trying to make sense over the plans to stop production on the 1 cent penny. It actually costs almost 4 cents to make that 1 cent piece. Chair of the School of Business at Westminster College, Dr. Bob Badowski, joins us now to help us answer some questions about this major change, what you probably already have in your piggy bank and maybe also in your vehicle. Thank you for joining us.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so how will ending the penny production actually save the government some money?
So it'll essentially save $85 million a year, which sounds crazy, but that's true.
Yeah, and we're hearing that cash transactions will have to be done by rounding up or down to the nearest nickel. What do you think that might mean for consumers and businesses? They'll have to change how you check out and pay for things, right?
I think so. I think, yeah, consumers are going to have to be a little bit more heady on how they spend, and businesses are going to have to be a little bit more particular on how they price things. So you can back out sales tax and things like that and calculate things to the nearest 5 cents, if you will. So I think they'll have to probably do those kinds of things.
And with prices under so much scrutiny, do you think, with so many shoppers so conscious about how much every item costs individually, do you think the brands are going to have to be careful in the stores? Because if it goes up in price versus down by 5 cents, people might notice that a little bit.
I think so. I think everybody's kind of gun shy with the prices right now because everything keeps popping up, and sometimes it'll come back down. But just adding this might seem like an extra tax on things. So I think if manufacturers and businesses are smart, they will kind of calculate things out to the nearest 5 cents. Hopefully that works out in the consumer's favor.
And there's another layer to this. What will it mean for local governments when they're determining sales tax?
Well, I think those will remain the same. As we kind of move along. We have weird sales tax depending on where you go. Some are 6%, some are 5%, some are 7%. So it kind of just depends on where you are. It's going to make it a little bit more tricky. Now it may be beneficial for municipalities and governments to try to kind of gauge their things on a different level where they might round to a 5 cent type of situation.
Do you think that this is long overdue? I mean, when you heard the information, and what was your reaction? I think a lot of folks are trying to still figure out if this is a good idea.
Well, I figured it wasn't surprising to me. I think ultimately we'll probably phase out of coins in general. If you kind of do the math, I think it takes 14 cents to make a nickel. So that might be the next one to go. The dime seems to be reasonable, and the quarter still kind of makes sense. But ultimately, I think as we start to move more toward cashless types of things, we might just phase out change altogether.
And is it reasonable to be a little hesitant about the cashless? What's some of the pitfalls of going cashless for a lot of folks? They like having some cash on their hands.
Well, the pitfalls, there are a lot of pitfalls. If the power goes out, we've got no cash. If something happens to the bank, we've got no cash. So that's a tricky situation. And if you're carrying around your card and something happens to your card or you lose it, you may not have that available. So there are a lot of pitfalls to that. There are also a lot of good things with that. But my biggest fear is the power going out, or me losing my card, because I don't carry much cash with me anymore. So if that happens, I could be in trouble.
Yeah, they'll track everything you spend and where. Interesting times. Dr. Badowski, thank you so much for joining us. If anyone has a piggy bank or extra pennies lying around, maybe we should look at exchanging those soon. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.